Patrik Laine. Jesse, you made a note about Patrik Laine. I hadn't seen anything. Something about him staying in Columbus.
I'll read it right to you. So Patrik Laine told I guess it's a website in Finland that I hope I can stay in Columbus. This is the starting point, but you can never be sure what happens. I got traded once. I really haven't thought about the contract negotiations. At some point, they will let me know what the situation is, and they will ask what I think about this proposal. Do I want to take the contract? And then we continue the negotiations. So that's what he said about staying in Columbus.
And I also saw somewhere that it was confirmed that, remember, he was disciplined for mouthing off to a coach
in Columbus.
It was confirmed that it was an assistant coach, and that assistant coach is now the head coach, Brad Larson. I mean, fights happen. You can make up, but a bit concerning.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Columbus fans are pretty upset that they're still not over the fact that he is the coach. They're not happy about it.
Yeah, that was I was surprised because I had never really heard of him. And then when it was announced, I was pretty surprised by how upset they got.
Jackets fans sure know him and are not fans. So, I mean, maybe he surprises, right?
Yeah.
Like anything can happen.
I think it's interesting when players go overseas because that's when we usually get whoa, he's trashing the NHL and everything in it. And Patrik Laine goes overseas to Finland, does this interview in Finnish, and he praises Columbus and he says he wants to come back. So what's the motive there?
Didn't he have a Finnish interview earlier in the season that said this year was a mess or something like that?
I don't remember.
There was another interview. I think this interview is a balancing interview. I don't think that interview. There was another interview at the end of the season about the Blue Jackets he said he was awful, but I also think he said that it was awful.
You know what, though? Here's proof that, you can get over it. Mm-hmm. Is I remember like way back in like the old Sportsnet backup studio, we were talking about this player who went overseas and he trashed a teammate. And we're like, surely one of them's gone. And it was Kucherov trashing Killorn.
Yep.
Oh. They got over it. Yep. They got past it. Now they're okay.
I have to ask you guys, what's the money value on, remember, Laine is not signed. So what's the money value for a guy like that? Because if Columbus is going to ask him to play the same role as he was playing last year, like if they're trying to turn him into a power forward, it's not going to happen.
But also, if you're a one-dimensional player, you're not going to get the big dollars. I don't care how much you score. If you're a defensive liability, we can't play in certain situations 5-on-5. It's difficult.
Yeah, it sure is. It's going to be very fascinating to see.
Columbus is also an interesting point in this upcoming draft because they have 3 first-round picks. They got Tampa's, Toronto's, and their own. And I think Patrik Laine, I feel like he confuses everybody because of how big he is. Like he's an underrated big guy. He's like, I think he's 6'4" on skates, which is just not typically the stature of a guy who only scores. You have this giant body on the ice and you look at him and you want him to play these defensive roles. You want him to use his skill in a lot more ways, but that's just not the way his abilities work. It might be what it should be nature to his body type and his I assume his playing ability, what he can do, but that's not what he is at the NHL level. He's a scorer. So I think he's so confusing to Columbus and Winnipeg and the 2 teams he's played for that are just trying to change his style.
It's going to be fascinating.
It's amazing what happens when you embrace this type of player. You might win back-to-back cups. This dude's the Finnish Phil Kessel.
Right. Let him be the scorer. He clearly doesn't want to play the other way.
Yeah,
Evgeny Malkin looked like he liked Phil Kessel for exactly 2 days, and it was the 2 days they won the Stanley Cup. But look how they played. Look how they played together, and look how everything worked out.
Ben Bishop has also agreed to waive his no movement clause in order for the Stars to protect other players. And I think who's the other goalie in Dallas? I didn't even look that up. I meant to. Yeah, maybe it is. And I kind of have to say, if your teammate, even if you make a pile of money and it's not unlikely you'll be selected, if you're a guy that does this, I guess it's Hudobin at $3.333 million. I think that's that's a guy I'm taking out to dinner.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a cool thing to do because you're talking about potentially uprooting your entire family. And Ben Bishop had the right to do what he wanted.
Also, like, Hudobin wasn't very good last year. At least his numbers weren't. But I would not put too much stock into that. Like, there are a few teams who I think would be justified in looking at last season and going, yeah, we're just going to kind of forget that happened. And Dallas is one of them. Right. I think they're one of them.
Right. So, and then from there, I do want to quickly mention too that Ben Bishop was on the IR at the end of last season, and so is Radulov. I wonder if they're both going to be ready to be back even at the beginning of next season too. Right? Like if you're Seattle, maybe you do take a chance on Ben Bishop because what the heck, he's been pretty good everywhere he's gone. And he's a good veteran presence, a couple years left. It's a little expensive, but the injury would kind of spook me, I think.
Yeah. But if you're planning on flipping goalies, worrying about whether he's going to be good to go, that could be someone else's problem.
Right. But you might not be able to trade him if somebody else has the same worry you do.
Nah, you'll find someone.
Call Jim Benning. All right, let's get to the press conference.
Call Ken Holland.
Bro, that was the first thing I was going to say, and it's not even, I think it might be a good idea.